I am surprised by how much they've pivoted from all their shit that everyone. I mean, it took them fucking up 3 major Halo releases for them to finally understand that people did not like their new ideas and that they should either come up with new ideas or go back to some of the things that worked before. And it took a while, but it seems like they're finally there, which is good. There's a section in the interview where they make an explicit point to address the Craig brute meme, and they're like, we added hair to the brutes, and their facial animations hadn't been done yet, and we didn't expect that anybody would zoom in on their face, and like, yes, there's facial animations now, so like they won't look dead in the face in the actual
That's
game.
funny.
Yeah, it was really funny.
People were literally comparing that screenshot to like Halo 3's graphics.
Yeah.
And being
Yeah,
like,
I
Halo
remember that. I
3's
saw
brutes
that.
looked better than this.
Yeah. It does seem like the game is like pseudo open world was my concern from what I saw.
Oh.
Where it's like,
The campaign?
yeah, it seems, and I think that's what they said initially, is that it's not like you get dropped in the sandbox and you can really do whatever you want in any order. It's like you can't just go everywhere the entire time. You get dropped in an area, and then within that area is your sandbox for the moment, where you can do anything, and then you kind of move to the next area, and it's like that. I don't know. It just seems...
They say you can do anything, but what I want you to imagine is like, imagine like Plains of Eidolon, but you can't fish or mine.
Yeah.
And like what
That's
you're
what I'm
left
afraid
with
of.
at that point.
No, that's what I'm
That's
afraid
basically what it's like. Oh well, you can free roam and kill Banish
Yeah.
over here or
Kill Banished over there.
over there. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
you can go destroy that, anti-air cannon.
Now, I'll be cool if...
Or you can go destroy that anti-air cannon on the mountain over there. Like, it's up to you.
This guy says, do I explore off the golden path? I don't know what the fuck that means. Is that like is that like a UI, like, HUD trail that's just going to lead you to the objective? Because that'd be cringe. Assault
yeah,
that...
clairvoyance.
Look, it's actually like what you said. It's like, do I assault that banished war base guarding the valley pass, follow a flight of Forerunner sentinels into that unexpected cavern, rescue a squad of Marines dug in desperate halfway up the mountain? Oh, that's interesting. Or do I keep pulling the mainline story thread that feels epic and intimate at the exact same time? That's like 4 very similar things.
Cap. Cap.
Because it is all combat, like he said. And I guess like it's not like I want to go chop down a tree or something and build a house. Like that's not what I'm wanting either. I just
Minecraft Halo.
think the exploration needs to be rewarding. If they add stuff
So much freedom.
where you have to like skill jump to if there's stuff that like breaks up the combat flow, and it's like, all right, well, there's this really hard to get spot, on the mountains, and you got to climb up there somehow. You got to find a way to get up there, and it's, it takes that, it kind of almost like an Assassin's Creed, like a reach high point. You know what I mean?
Should be like Fallen Order, dude.
Yeah, I mean, Fallen Order definitely has a lot of those moments that still, yeah, and if they can pace it like that, even, that would be awesome. I mean, Fallen Order's pacing
you have
was
like
great.
an explorable area that's still linear enough to keep you on track, and you do have an objective, but there is like rewards and cosmetics and things to discover for going off the beaten path and looking around. Like,
and I hope that they'll be able to do that with this. It's just scary because they've never in any Halo game done this before.
I was gonna say I've never heard
Like,
of a Halo game doing.
So
doing
it's
something like
a
that.
lot of uncharted territory, and 343 I can't say has
no pun
excelled.
intended.
Yeah. 343 I can't say has excelled ever when it comes to making a Halo game in general. So and before they had the formula, and they still couldn't even do it right. So it's just scary how daunting of a task it is to make an open world Halo game work, and then who is at the helm and what their track record has been. This guy says, my first week on the job, I played the entire Infinite campaign twice. I was, in a word, stunned in the best possible way, but what the team had done, Infinite is by far the most expansive and vertical Halo world ever. Which is interesting, he says vertical, because that gives the impression that there's gonna be a lot of this like height to everything. And you're gonna see like, oh, there's a tower up there, there's mountains up there, I'm gonna be able to get up there. Probably with the grappling hook thing that we saw, I'd imagine. And if the grappling hook replaces the fucking stupid jump boots and the clambering and all that shit, and maybe if clambering only happens when you're grappling, then I think that could be fine, maybe. I don't want the grappling hook at all in multiplayer, but I just mean, even in campaign, I don't want the fucking the jump jets and the thruster packs and just a jetpack and stuff. Like,
yeah,
I want them, I loved in the other Halo games like skill jumping and crouch jumping and like grenade jumping. Like, you had to be creative with how you had to reach places that were hard to get to. And if they take all that away by just giving you fucking a jetpack, it's kind of like, They talk a lot about armor for some reason and customization in this article, which I feel like is cool, but, and like, I just don't feel like it's the main thing people were wondering about.
That's why we're getting the game, is for the armor, dude.
Yeah, right.
Well, like, and no one really gives a fuck about your campaign anyway,
No.
dude. Like, don't get me wrong, like, the Halo 4 and 5 campaigns were Magunda ass cheeks, but like ultimately people didn't like stop playing your game and stop buying into the franchise because the campaign wasn't good.
Yeah.
They stopped because the fucking multiplayer was dog shit.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I mean, ultimately, and I think you've said this before, like, what really is obviously what affects the lifespan of a game the most, it ends up being its multiplayer. And so far, we've had very, very, very few details about the multiplayer. And the details we have gotten are like, hey, by the way, the structure and format of multiplayer is going to be completely different. And then we're just supposed to be like, okay, and we're just supposed to like take that and just wonder like what the fuck's going to happen. They're like, oh, it's free to play. And you're like, what? Like, what is that gonna be like? That's never been done before. Like, what are you talking about? And we're going right from, this is the same company who in Halo 5, they just had requisition packs and pay to win bullshit in fucking Halo, and they came up with that. And then we're going to this next title, the very next title, and they're like, it's free to play and there's no microtransactions and there's no loot boxes. It's like, what like, what's happening? But we still have very little details about the multiplayer.
I didn't even know they put that shit in Halo 5. I didn't play 5, so I didn't know.
You made the correct decision.
Congratulations, Cole.
This whole article, there's 9 mentions of the word multiplayer. And this is the first, like, big explanation of anything since that demo that they showed off. It's weird that they've I almost feel like multiplayer has barely been figured out yet. That's kind of what it seems like is happening, because I feel like
doesn't that just excite you, bro?
No. It just feels like they would have more detail. They should have more details at this point to say to this interviewer than just like, there's no loot boxes and here's a bunch of camos that you can put on your armor. Like, I don't know, it's just such a weird, it just seems like a what's the word, like a misdirect, where they're like, hey, look though, we brought the Halo Reach armor back, look at that. And it's like, don't ask us about like how multiplayer is actually gonna be, because we don't know yet for sure. Like,
we don't even know what it's going to be yet. Don't ask
us if the grappling hook's in multiplayer, because we haven't decided yet. Like, it just kind of seems like that's the mentality there.
Yeah. And that's a bad look to answer every question with we're not sure yet or we haven't decided. Clearly, when you look at games like 4 and 5 and just how much shit they tried to implement from other video games, like they haven't had a direction in mind when they release multiplayer.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, elements from Call of Duty and elements from fucking Overwatch and
Yeah.
like whatever Fortnite's doing right now. Like, and just
Whatever.
like there's just like they very clearly have no fucking idea. Like they don't have a clear goal or like path to success laid out. You know, that's like the first thing you do when you're in a business is you sit there and you look at what your goal is, and then once you decide on a fucking goal, then you start going about the means to achieve that goal. Like you don't just fucking start doing something and then like, oh, I'm not sure I'm gonna take this yet. That's something you do when you're like bored and like fucking around with like a project or like, you know, doing something on your own. When you're a fucking like $600 million fucking studio, like 260 fucking people. What was Microsoft doing? Like, did they have the meeting with Microsoft, like going over like the fucking budget for the fiscal year and like what they were gonna need to get production started and what their ideas were and like, you know, because that's what they do. Like these fucking studios meet with their publishers. These are like, you know, our goals. This is how we plan to accomplish them. These are what we expect to need as far as logistics go. How many people we're going to need, how much time we're going to need, money, access to resources. And then they sit there and fucking hash it out with the publisher. And the publisher's like, okay, yeah, gotcha. I can give you this. I can't do that. Can you do this instead? And like they come to fucking terms with each other and they signed a fucking agreement. Like, what the fuck did Microsoft see that was like, yeah, $600 million?
It is. Budget? It is. You're right. It's 5, or at least this one says 500 million. But either way, it's very fucking close. That is crazy, dude. That is a rumor, but like,
it's a lot of money.
Making it the most expensive video game title ever made, if that rumor is true, which it seems like a staggering, dude. Like that's, yeah. I mean, I agree. Every time multiplayer comes up, it's always in this interview, and this is like I said, this is December 2020. The game's less than a year from release now. It just got delayed. It was supposed to come out in November somehow. Like, I don't know. I don't understand how that was ever even in the question, and that was even in the conversation for them. But every time multiplayer comes up, even in this interview, and they've had a few months since that July thing, and since even the delay to think about multiplayer. Every time multiplayer even comes up, it's like it comes up in this like vague list of things. They're like, yeah, marketing, multiplayer, sandbox, esports. It's like, okay. And then anytime it's brought up, the only thing specifically they go into is about customization and the fact that they won't be gouging the player base with microtransactions. Like that's supposed, we're like all supposed to be like, yay, they won't do that. Like, and it seems like that's what they want your takeaway to be, is they want you to walk away and go, awesome, they're gonna give a fuck and it's gonna be really good, even though they gave you no actual details about anything. They just told you they weren't gonna gouge you.
Right.
The only specifics, and I say specifics with air quotes because it's still a vague list of ideas. The only time they specifically get into multiplayer is when they talk about principles and pillars, which, by the way, if you ever have made a business or business plan, you've ever made a project or anything like that that's kind of larger in scope, the principles and pillars, sure, they're important, but that's pre-production stuff. That's stuff that happens before anything ever actually gets done. That's like the first stage of just deciding like what are the guiding things that are going to lead us through the project. Bringing this up in December 2020, less than a year before release, this is not when you should be asking about principles and pillars, because they don't fucking matter anymore, because you've probably already made a bunch of decisions at this point in production that are vaguely to do with those principle and pillars, but they're just words. It's just like a word map of filler that you do just for the sake of like generating ideas. But they talk about principles and pillars here, and they're like, we want healthy engagement with the players, and we want to maintain a player-first focus. We want unambiguous value where if someone invests their time or money in the game, they should understand what they're getting from the investment. And examples of this in practice include no loot boxes, either through engagement or any premium route, and we're not selling power or giving an unfair advantage. That's great, man. We're always going to be listening, learning, and experimenting. We're going to provide value to the players. We're going to allow player expression. And it's like, dude, that's all great. But none of that is even remotely a specific detail about anything. Like, you're just saying buzzwords.
That's a cop-out, bro.
Yeah, you're just saying buzzwords and copping out of, like, talking about anything. People want to hear, like, even this is still pretty vague, and I don't think even remotely detailed enough, but just say, like, is it gonna be like Reach's multiplayer? Should we expect Halo 2's multiplayer? Should we expect Halo 3's? Should we expect something totally different we've never even seen before? Like, are we trying to bring it more modern and essentially saying like, oh, it's gonna be like COD? Like, what are we doing? Like, what is it like? Like, can you give us any indication of anything legitimate? You know what I mean? It's like, it's great that you've decided you're going to listen to your players and shit, which is should always be the baseline all the time for any developer. So I'm not giving you a gold star for that. But, like, can you give us any actionable things? You know what I mean? And they don't really.
Yeah,
they just talk about the progression system and weapon coding. They go into detail about the campaign, obviously, because they've figured out the campaign, but I really do get the impression they don't.
Right. They don't know.
They have not made the
well, they're
hard
like, oh,
decisions.
we have these cool skins.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, like, am I gonna be having a bad time in my awesome looking armor? Like, you know, how are my bullets gonna register in this with this cool battle rifle skin? Like,
yeah. Is it
will
projectiles
my
and hit
DMR
scan?
like actually kill people? Like, yeah, like is it hit scan?
Is it dedicated
is there
servers?
fucking travel time? Like yeah, like what is a, you know, is there going to be skill-based matchmaking in the game, or like a strict team balancing algorithm? Like, what's the ranking system going to be like? Is there going to be separation of social and ranked gameplay? Will the ranked modes be incentivized with legitimate rewards that actually encourage good players to go play against other good players? Or is it just going to be a bunch of garbage that no one cares about again, and intangibles? And they're like, whoa, that's a great question. So at launch, you'll have access to the Recon helmet.
Yeah.
What can I expect from my multiplayer experience? Is it going to be 4v4? Is there going to be ranked and social? Is there going to be skill-based matchmaking? Like, is there going to be fucking armor abilities in the game? Is there going to be fucking loadouts where people can spawn with different weapons?
There's no mention even of Forge. There's no mention even of theater. I mean, like, it's like you can make assumptions, you can assume. But by the way, making those assumptions, motherfucker, theater wasn't in MCC on PC for months after it came out.
Yeah, it was gonna say it was
months and months, and neither was Forge. So, like, yeah,
Forge
you can make the assumption, but that really isn't getting us anywhere either, because we can't really trust that either.
Yeah, I mean, they've clearly shown us that even with stuff like that, where it's already been created.
Yeah, it's like it should be a given.
Even be bothered to port it over.
Yeah, it should be.
They couldn't even be bothered to port it over, dude. Like, let alone, you know.
Is it even crossplay? Do we even know? Is it crossplay? Like, I can, once again, we can assume.
Like, what is my gaming experience going to be like?
We can assume
is
it's
there
crossplay,
dedicated servers? Is there going to be a region server selection where I can enable and disable servers? Like, is there going to be input-based matchmaking again? Like,
it took many months. By the way, MCC just got input-based matchmaking, and that was like last month or two, and that's how long it took since launch on PC. And like I said, it's like we can assume, because these things have already been made and we've already made these decisions on other games, right? It's like, oh yeah, Forge is good and theater is good, and we have input-based matchmaking now, and it's cross-play now. But none of that shit was in the game for a year since it launched. So, like, it almost doesn't matter if the game when it launches, if they're like, oh yeah, well we're gonna add it, it's like no. It's happening right now. Like, you just delayed the game an extra year. You had all this
Yeah.
time. You don't get to say like, oh, we're gonna add that later. It's like, it's go time now. And if you want the player base to be retained that you're gonna get at launch, you can't just have half of the game there at launch. Like, you
Yeah.
have to have the whole game all at once. Not, oh, we will add crossplay and oh, we will add theater. Like, no, like, it's gotta all be there at launch. Like, and if they pull the same shit they did with MCC, like, that's gonna be a really cringe thing to watch.
Yeah.
So they had
Right.
6 years to
The
fix
multiplayer
all
didn't work for
that.
the first 9 months of the game.
It didn't work for the first 9 months. And so they had 6 years to fix all that and then release it to PC, which took way too long. Then we come into December 3rd, 2019. It's been over a year since MCC came to PC when Halo Reach launched. And this is MCC, an infrastructure that should have already been finished 6 years ago. Because it came out in 2014, and then this was Halo Reach, which came out in fucking 2009 or 2010, and that game's already done, so you have no work to do. You should have no work to do other than just port it to PC, which I'm not saying isn't hard work. It is.
Yeah.
But it's not 6 years. The update Hunter's referring to, where they added, finally, crossplay, daily and weekly XP challenges, all of these other input-based matchmaking, all these other quality of life things that really made the game feel finished and complete and functional in terms of just functionality. That update came out November 17th, 2020.
Yeah, I remember when it
Not to mention, if they hadn't fucked up and Infinite would have stuck to schedule, we would have played the game for fucking 1 month like that, and then we would have moved on.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have even been given adequate time to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'm glad that Infinite got delayed, because it actually gives me a fucking chance to enjoy Halo the Master Chief Collection in a somewhat finished state.
Honestly.
Because it took a year to complete it, yeah.
No, it took 6 years to complete it after fucking release. All you had to do was take 4 fucking Halo games that were already made and just put them on Xbox One with some quality of life improvements that made them feel like they came out this decade.
Yeah.
And you couldn't even fucking do that, bro. You couldn't even make Halo 2 and Halo 3 feel like they came out in 2014. You know what? And you couldn't even make Halo 2 feel like it came out in 2004 because the fucking multiplayer didn't work. At least in 2004, when Halo 2 came out, you could fucking Xbox Connect and play that shit online. You couldn't fucking play Halo 2 Anniversary online in 2014.
And I know it seems like it's just like, oh, now it's time to just rag on 343 for everything, all their past transgressions.
It has been. It's been fucking time.
But it's related. It's related to the Infinite conversation, because this is what's been shown to us by this developer who's helming this. So it's like, since the new information we keep getting is still kept very vague and very plain on purpose to not give us any specific information because they don't know what they're doing, it seems. We are left to infer based on what we already know about their past track record. You know what I mean? Like, it is the logical progression of that thought process, and all we're left with to examine is a lot of really, really fucking bad stuff that they've done. You know what I mean? So it does not instill a lot of confidence, especially because they keep holding out on being specific about these details and telling us what we should be able to expect with the portion of the game we're going to be experiencing and spending the most time with. Because I'm sure I'll enjoy the campaign. I'm sure I'll have a fine or fun time even on the campaign and co-oping with my friends. I already am pretty sure of that. It's pretty hard to fuck up a campaign to the point where you can't enjoy it with your friends. I'm playing Ghost Recon Wildlands, and that game's a buggy piece of shit, and it's still fun. It's still fun because it's just it's a fucking video game. You get to run around and shoot guys with your friends. Like, it's fun. Like, drive the helicopter. Like, it doesn't take a lot. The multiplayer is a bit of a different beast, and that's where everyone has the most questions. That's where everyone's on the edge of their seat the most about, and that's the thing they've talked the least about. So it is troubling, and it is concerning. You know what I mean? And it does, the closer we're getting. You know, in July when they released that vertical slice, I was like, okay, I hear you. Like, I'll fuck with it. Okay. And then immediately after, it was just kind of swept, that feeling was kind of swept away by like, oh, here's the actual peek behind the curtain, and like, it's not going well. It's not done. It wasn't an it wasn't a way older build like I had heard it was, and they were trying to pass it off like, oh, no, that's not the new build though. It's like, no, that probably was. And the game isn't even close to finished, and now it's delayed, and now we have time to think about these things, and we have time to watch what they're doing with MCC still. And the longer we're waiting, the more time I have to ruminate on it, and the less and less excited I get. Thanks so much for watching and listening, guys. If you want to see more videos similar to this one, subscribe to the channel and follow the dudes in the video who helped me out with this one, Hunter and Cole. Links to their stuff down below. They're great. These were just our thoughts upon reading some of the new Halo Infinite news. We'd like to hear what you guys have to say about everything as well, and how you guys are gearing up for the new release and how you feel about it. So leave a comment down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Why? Let us know. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.